Good morning. Take a few minutes just to look around you, greet one another with a special focus on someone you may not know or know well. Well, that was quicker than usual. I have asked our dear friend Sue Shaner to come and do the welcome this morning.
Thanks, Nancy. Well, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just make sure you silence your phones. I always forget to do that. I don't want to be the one that is embarrassed because my phone's going off. My name's Sue Shaner, as Nancy said. I've been part of this congregation for 23 years, who's counting? I actually came through the doors in February of 2001, came a couple times, but then the Sunday after 9/11, I've been coming ever since, and have been involved in many, many ways, including being on the board, heading up various committees, etc. And I've really found a lot of enrichment and enjoyment from my experiences and connections and community and time here. So much so that I started seminary to become an interfaith minister this year. And I'm just wrapping up my first year. And it's interesting. Thanks, Nancy. What I'm finding is it's very you-ish, this interfaith ministry. I keep saying, this feels you, because I taught in the RE program for over 15 years. Okay, enough about me. So the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been gathering for over 200 years in some form or place or another. And as we work to build a more just world, we respectfully acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Powassan people, which interestingly enough is really our focus for today. And I just had a conversation with the clan mother this week, and I was reminded, I keep saying Powassan, and hearing her say it, it's really Powassan. So it's almost like a PW. I'm so glad that you're able to join us this morning because you are an essential part of our celebration today, particularly more so because you're going to be more involved than maybe on a typical Sunday. Sneak preview. Whether today is your first or thousandth Sunday in our midst, in person or online, we're stronger because you are with us. If you're new to our community and joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself and where you're connecting from in the chat box as you are comfortable. And at the conclusion of today's service, you will have the chance to participate in a breakout group for individual connections and deeper conversations. If you're new and here in person, then please fill out a visitor card at the table near the exit before you leave today. And we are people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are growing, all learning, all loved, just as you are. You are welcome here. Now, announcements. Do we have announcements? Sorry. You're doing the announcements, right? Or am I doing them? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And this one too.
Okay. Let's see. What announcements do we have? Okay, well, to share the plate today, the offering will go to the Golden Hill Pulgosset tribe to help them build a community center on their land in Colchester. So we thank you in advance for your generosity there. So here's the cool thing about Unitarian Universalism is that we open up the services in the summer for anyone here in the audience, for lay people to conduct services. And so we are looking for anyone who is interested to lead a lay service this summer. I've done about 20 over the years. I typically do one a year, and they're really a lot of fun. You have a chance to explore different topics, and it's great to hear from members of the congregation. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, there'll be an annual meeting preview and discussion at 11:30 in the lower level and on Zoom. The link will be sent out at 11 a.m. And at the annual meeting on June 2nd, we'll be voting on the 2024-2025 budget for UCD, as well as a bylaws amendment about how much the board can spend in emergencies. And so we're having these preview discussions. Let's see. Oh, okay. Not today, I guess. Next Sunday, sorry, at 11:30 a.m. and on May 21st, Tuesday, 7 p.m. So if you're interested in one of those, then you can just hop on as a preview to just kind of talk through, because here the intention here is that at our actual annual meeting, we'll have had some of the pre-discussions so we can get to the voting. And sometimes these meetings in the past have kind of dragged on and on. So it's really a chance to kind of get your questions asked and answered and have a discussion. The Danbury chapter of Together Women Rise will meet May 19th at Wendy Mussel's house, 3 o'clock. For more information, you can contact Ann Craig. Okay, and we are collecting non-perishable food donations on Sunday mornings. Please place your food donations in the basket in the foyer. And if you're willing and able, you can sign up to transport the weekly collection to the Dorothy Day Hospitality House on Spring Street. And I believe that is everything. Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay. And now for our chalice lighting affirmation. We have 2 helpers. And as they are lighting the chalice, Lana and Zella, we can say together the words that will be on your screen and in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its life. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in Hymn of Welcome number 131. Love will guide us. Words on your screen.
will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other.
So good to be together. When my kids were little, I never made them say, "I'm sorry." This is a true story. All parents do things differently. Different things work for different families. So if you're hearing this right now, but your parents make you say, "I'm sorry," or you made your kids say, "I'm sorry," that's fine. But this is a true story, and the truth is, I did not make my kids say, "I'm sorry." The reason I made that choice, and again, different families, different choices. The reason I made that choice is that I wanted my kids to learn that it's important to mean it when we say we're sorry. And sometimes they might not mean it. So I taught them that they could say, "I'm sorry," when they felt sorry. We did a lot of saying, "I'm sorry." But I never went back and forth with them and tried to make them say it. Instead, I taught them that when they did something that hurt or harmed someone, whatever the reason, even if they didn't mean to do it, that these words to that person they hurt or harmed were the most important ones they could say. You can practice these words with me. Just repeat after me. I taught my kids to say, "Are you okay? And is there anything I can do to help?" Because when someone's been harmed or hurt, repairing or healing is important, no matter how we're feeling. Our feelings come and go. But when we're part of someone being harmed, whether because we caused the harm, or because we participate in the harm, or because we benefit from the harm, we still have to be responsible for the harm we've been part of. So that's what I taught my kids when they were really little. But then they grew older. And the thing about growing older is that sometimes we can start to understand things we didn't understand before. And we might be able to do things that are more complicated than the things that we did before because we have more practice. So let me say something to the adults really quickly, because it's important that when we use things that other people have created, we give them credit. So what I'm about to share came from a great book that I highly recommend called On Repentance and Repair. The subtitle is Making Amends in an Unapologetic World. It's by Rabbi Dana Rettenberg, who is drawing on her Jewish background. and particularly the scholarship of Maimonides, Maimonides, thank you, to talk about repentance, which, by the way, may or may not and doesn't necessarily lead to forgiveness. Okay, so back to the story. So now my kids are older. And just like when they were little, sometimes the kinds of harms that they cause are simple things. They knock into somebody and they accidentally hurt them, or they get angry and they say something hurtful, or they borrow something and they forget to give it back. And in those cases, they do okay if they stick with saying, I'm sorry, if they mean it, but also saying things like, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? But sometimes things are more complicated. Like, maybe let's say, and I'm just totally making this up as an example, but let's say my kid Kai, who some of you have met, let's say that they're friends with someone named River and someone named Autumn. And let's say that Autumn starts being mean to River. And River tries to defend themselves, but Autumn just acts meaner. Now, Kai doesn't know what to do about that. Or maybe Kai is nervous about losing Autumn as a friend. So they just stay quiet. And maybe Kai invites them over, both at the same time, even knowing that Autumn might be mean to River, just kind of hoping that it'll work itself out. So then, River is hurt, not just because Autumn is acting mean, but because Kai didn't help when they saw that Autumn was being mean. This rabbi, Dana Rettenberg, says that there are 5 things that Kai can do when they've hurt someone. And we can do this when we've hurt someone too. First, we have to name and own the harm that we've caused. That means we really have to understand. So they might need to do some learning. What might it sound like for Kai to name the harm they caused to River? Any ideas? They could ask River to name the harm. And sometimes that puts more burden on River, but sometimes River might be willing to do it. So that's one approach. What else? Acknowledge that something's wrong and that River's not feeling good about things. Well, and Rabbi Dana says, we have to be very specific. So Kai might say, I failed to step in. I didn't come to your aid. I did not help you when I saw that Autumn was being mean. Okay, second, they have to start to change. That means they have to be honest with themselves about what caused them to not help River, what caused them to invite both friends over knowing that Autumn might act mean to River, but hoping it was just going to work itself out. So can you think of some ideas of why that might happen? Why might have Kai not said anything? Or why might Kai have invited them both over hoping they were just going to work it out? Fear, yeah, definitely. Like fear of losing them both as friends, or fear of how they would react if Kai said something.
I think it could be afraid that it could even accelerate the argument.
Ooh, they could feel like, oh no, if I say something, it might make it worse. It might make them argue even more. Any other ideas?
Bringing them together in a place where they've not been brought together before is if Kai's home, maybe the location would lighten things up and maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe they would be okay in this.
Yeah, maybe Kai is thinking, well, if I invite them both over, it's a different kind of situation they haven't been in before, and maybe things will work out. So Kai might honestly believe that by inviting them both over, they were doing the right thing. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, so third, they have to accept the consequences of their actions and try to make restitution or amends, try to repair to make things better. So maybe the consequences for Kai include River not wanting to spend so much time with Kai. Maybe River won't trust Kai so easily. And Kai can ask, is there anything I can do to help? Just like we practiced earlier. But not because Kai wants River to get over it and hang out with Kai again, but because Kai really does want to mend what they have broken. So maybe if Autumn said really hurtful things about River, River might want Kai to say some honest but kind things. Or maybe River will want Kai to join an anti-bullying team at their school so they can help stop people from hurting others the way Autumn hurt them. The fourth thing Kai can do is to apologize. This is saying sorry because we mean it. And if Kai's done the work to understand the harm that they've caused and begun working on changing it and trying to make things better, they're more likely to mean it when they say, I'm sorry. Because they are changed by the experience. They're growing. And fifth, Kai has to make some different choices. Because they have grown through the experience, Kai will be able to choose the things they do in the future in a way that's better matched up to their values. So what are some of the values that Kai might have that would help them choose something different to help a friend in a future situation similar to this? What kind of values would cause Kai to choose differently? To be Kai's value of being authentic, to being who they are, yeah. Courage, yeah, they might value courage and doing what's right. Curiosity, they might have curiosity about what's going on in the situation, right? And compassion, yes, I heard compassion, absolutely. That might cause Kai to make a different decision.
I think compassion also to Autumn. That you could say to Autumn, I know you don't mean to be a bully, but that's the way it's not.
Yeah, so the compassion isn't necessarily just to the person who's been harmed, but the person who caused the original harm as well, because people don't want to make choices that make them have bad relationships with other people. And so there's some kind of suffering behind it. Go ahead. Humility.
Maybe it's not my place, or maybe what I'm thinking may not work.
Okay, so you've just given me a reason that Kai might not intervene because of humility. But right now, we're going to talk about things that what values might lead Kai to intervene in this case. But humility actually could be one of those values, because Kai could be saying, I don't know how to solve this problem, but I know that I can't sit by and watch this happen, right? All right, so that is Dana Ruttenberg's framework for us to consider in making amends. And I want to end that story and invite Zell forward to light the lantern with our chalice light so we can bring it downstairs. And as we're heading downstairs, we'll sing together This Little Light of Mine.
Light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
It's lovely to have the children involved. It's now time for our shared milestones. We will begin with silent milestones. If you have something that is on your heart, lifting you up, weighing you down, that you don't care to share out loud at this moment, please feel free to come forward and place a stone in the water. Okay, so, yeah. Oh, Huey?
I don't need a microphone. People know me. Some people know, been here for I've been here a long time. And it's a milestone because I see all the improvements. I love that the songs are up there. I love the new candle arrangement. I love that people can participate from far away. And it's,
People online can't hear you.
oh, they cannot.
Yeah, people online can't hear you. Start from the beginning. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
I'm sorry for the people online. I did not know my voice wouldn't make it to the mic. As I was saying, I haven't been here in quite a while, but there's been nothing but improvements as far as I can say, and I think that bodes very, very well for our community, and that makes it very important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you. A few moments of silent reflection. It's under. Look, it's under. It's under. Take two on silent reflections. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Today's Share the Plate, as Suze mentioned earlier, the Golden Hill Powagussit, am I saying it now correctly? Powagussit tribe. They have a small reservation in Colchester, Connecticut, over on the other side of the state, and they were asking that our Share the Plate go toward their building a community center. So that's where our contributions are going this morning. The offertory, I'm going to take a minute to tell you that Floyd Red Crow Westerman is the singer in this video, and he's speaking about the anguish of being taken away from his family and sent to a boarding school. You may not be able to hear all of the lyrics, so I wanted to let you know what it was about. Oh, I'm supposed to say I'm sorry, Sherry, I blew it. You may make a check out to UCD, to 24 Clapper Ridge Road in Danbury, or use the QR code on your screen.
You put me in your boarding school, make me learn your white man rule. Be a fool. Oh, 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 oh. You put me in Chicago one cold December day. Relocation, extermination. Oh, 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 oh. You make me leave my home, my friend. Think I'll go back there again. Wounded knee, wanna be free. Oh, 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 oh.
Okay, Suze, help me out. Pwagusset, Pugwasset, where's the W, first or second syllable? First, Pwagusset. Got it. Okay, who are the Pwagusset people? Well, you can't really do justice to generations of people in 5 minutes, but we will give it a try. We'll do our best. Sherry, could you show us the first slide, please? Before the arrival of the Dutch and the Puritans, the Pwagusset people lived roughly from New Haven to Norwalk, what are today New Haven and to Norwalk on the coast, and then inland up the Housatonic and the Naugatuck River valleys, as far as those rivers were navigable by canoe. That was Pwagusset territory. They were farmers. They grew what they called the Three Sisters: squash, corn, and beans. They also grew Jerusalem artichokes, if you're familiar with those, and they raised tobacco, which they used for ceremonial purposes. They are an Algonquian tribe, and they were closely related to, among others, the Mohicans, the Wappingers, and the Shinnecock people, and they were allied with them from time to time. They were also neighbors with the Pequot tribe and with the Mohawks, but relations were not so smooth with those tribes. They were not always on good terms with them. The Mohawk and the Pequot people were Iroquois, and Iroquois is very different from Mohican, or no, from Algonquian. There are different languages, different customs, and not so different from European people. I mean, it's a mistake to think that all Europeans are alike. Well, obviously they're not. Different languages, different customs, varying allies and enemies over time, and so are the Native Americans. People are people. The first contact with Europeans, you can see, anyway, I should have indicated to you, and you've probably seen it on the map. The map is, of course, of Connecticut. This is an indication of where the native peoples lived in what is today Connecticut back in the early 1600s. And you'll see the Paugussett people depicted. Well, they're named as the inhabitants of the southwest portion where we are today. So first contact with European settlers / invaders would have been in the early 1600s. And of course, the native people would not have called that the 1600s. They would have had their own numbering system for the years, but it was about 400 years ago. The Dutch settled in the Hudson River Valley, of course, and then the Puritans moved west from the Massachusetts Bay Area, as everybody knows. And of course, the indigenous people got squeezed out in the middle. In 1639, the Paugussett people signed their first treaty. And that gave them reservation lands vaguely described somewhere between Stratford and Fairfield. And the border between Stratford and Fairfield itself wasn't very well defined. And the folks of Stratford and Fairfield argued about that for a while. And finally, in 1659, Stratford and Fairfield settled their differences about the border. And so they clearly defined the border between those two settlements, and they took advantage of that opportunity to more clearly define the borders of the Paugussett Reservation, without, of course, any input from the Paugussett people, because they didn't think that was necessary. It ended up being about an 80-acre tract between those two settlements. So it had gone from a large portion, the land that was available to the Paugussett people had gone from a large portion of southwest Connecticut to 80 acres shortly after first contact with Europeans. And that's the way it stood for about 100 years, 80 acres. Then in 1763, there was some trespassing that took place. And white settlers decided that the 80 acres that the Paugussett were living on looked pretty good. And they started building homes and they started farming. And the Paugussett people took them to court. They went to the colonial courts and they sued to get their land back. And the colonial court, in its wisdom, decided that, well, no, actually the trespassers can stay and they get to keep the land. And they awarded the Paugussett people some blankets and some corn and called it good. They ended up losing 68 of the 80 acres that way in 1763. So now they're down to 12 acres. That's all they've got. And 40 years later, 1802, we have the tribal overseer appointed by the state of Connecticut, who decides that for the tribe's own good, those 12 acres needed to be sold. And so they were. He sold the 12 acres out from under them. And the money that he got, the sales proceeds, well, he needed to keep that to pay his own fees. So by 1802, all of their land was gone. They had no money. They had nothing left. So they scattered. They couldn't stay on the land. It wasn't theirs anymore. Some of them found their way down to Bridgeport, which at that time was growing as a community. And they started a community in an area that came to be known as Ethiop. Sherry, could you go to the next slide? This is it's not showing up really well here in the fellowship hall. Maybe you can see it better in the Zoom, in the chat, I hope. But this is an old map of the town of Bridgeport in the early 1800s. And you can see the area down by the mouth of the river was what was called Ethiop. And that's where a community of Paugussett people survived for some period of time. Finally, in 1875, can you go to the next slide, Sherry? In 1875, William Sherman, who was chief of the tribe, and this is his picture on the cover of this book. You can see Mr. Sherman there. William Sherman in 1875 bought a quarter-acre of land in Trumbull, quarter-acre lot. And in his will, he left it to the state of Connecticut to be administered for the benefit of the Paugussett people. And they still have that quarter-acre of land today. That was their reservation. That's what they got. A couple of footnotes about Mr. Sherman. He has a great-great-granddaughter. That is, in fact, Sharan Wapatuquet Piper. This is her great-great-grandfather. His last name, Sherman, in fact, that was not the name that he was born with. That's an anglicized version of the real family name, which was, in fact, Sharan. And that's where Sharan gets her first name today. Another footnote that I think is worth mentioning about tribal governance in the Paugussett people. The tribe is managed by a tribal council, the chief, and the clan mother. The tribal council is the legislative body and they make the decisions. The chief is the executive who carries out those decisions. And both of them work closely with the clan mother because the clan mother is the highest political authority in the tribe. She has the power to appoint and remove the chief at will, and she has the power to veto decisions of the tribal council. So she is the ultimate authority within the Paugussett tribe. So the quarter acre from William Sherman was all they had for about 100 years. Until 1980, they applied for a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They got the grant, they took the money, and with it they purchased 108 acres in Colchester. And that's what they've got today, 108 acres in Colchester and a quarter of an acre in Trumbull. And those are the Paugussett people's reservation lands today. In 1982, the tribe sought federal recognition. They're recognized by the state of Connecticut, but they've never had federal recognition as a tribe. 1982, they applied for recognition and it was denied. The BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, denied it, ostensibly because they had failed to show cultural, social, and political continuity since first contact with European settlers. And that's a requirement for federal recognition of a tribe. You got to show continued existence from the time of first contact. Never mind, and the BIA said, you haven't done that. You haven't done that because we really don't see much evidence of your tribe between 1802 when you lost your lands in 1875 when William Sherman came along. You know, never mind that they lost those lands because they were taken away from them by the government, but they were denied. So they were denied. You don't get federal recognition because you got this gap in your history. So they hired a professional historian, Charles Brilvich, who wrote the book, the cover of which you can see up there with Mr. Sherman. And Charles Brilvich, who was the town historian of Bridgeport at the time, did his research, extensive research, and he filled in that gap. Working from the public records, land titles and other records that were available, newspapers, correspondence, he filled in that gap and he established that there in fact was social, cultural, and political continuity of a tribal organization, even from 1802 when all of their land was taken away, up until 1875 when they got a quarter of an acre back. So the tribe took his evidence, which is summarized in this book, which is available on Amazon.com, and they reapplied. And the BIA said, oh, sorry, we're not going to consider your application. It's too bad. On the basis of a newly adopted rule at the time that said you only get one shot. If you've tried and we turned you down, you cannot reapply. You just can't do it. You can only do it one time. That rule was called the Connecticut Clause because it was adopted after intense lobbying by the governor at the time, Daniel Malloy, the Attorney General at the time, George Jepson, and the entire Connecticut congressional delegation who lobbied the BIA to make this rule that came to be known as the Connecticut Clause. One shot, one bite at the apple, that's all you get. And their concerns seemed to be twofold. Number one, they didn't want any more casinos in the state of Connecticut. And number two, they were afraid that if the tribe got federal recognition, they might actually sue for reparations for the land that was taken away from them. So as of this day, they still don't have federal recognition. They're trying to get the rule revoked, but they haven't been successful yet. It's not much of an exaggeration to say that the tribe has encountered nothing but opposition and betrayal from the colonial, state, and federal governments for 400 years. So who are the Paugussett people, whose name I will someday be able to pronounce correctly? They are our neighbors, to whom the clan mother was gracious enough to introduce us during a service last February. They have land in Colchester and in Trumbull. They do educational outreach programs in the schools. They're building a community center on their property in Colchester where our share of the plate contributions will go. They live and work and they laugh and they cry as our neighbors on lands around us today, while they try as hard as they can to honor and maintain their own tribal identity. So about tribal identity, I wanted to read a short passage from Red Road by Sharon Wapatukwe Piper. It's written as guidance and advice to a person who's trying to prove their tribal membership. But I think it has a more general application as an analogy to the universal challenge that we all face of trying to figure out what our own place in this world is. One may struggle to identify as an American Indian. People may be fearful to connect because they may think, I'm not a particular percentage or look a certain way. And I would say to those people, you know who you are, you know where you come from. Stay on that path and stay in your ways. The Creator made everybody's features. If you are a person of indigenous descent and you have some proof and the tribe or nation you feel strongly about doesn't welcome you, firstly, you didn't choose the blood in your body, so you shouldn't be judged. Continue to connect to your path as an American Indian to the best of your ability. You may find someone who is legally and completely recognized that says, yes, you're my brother or sister. We are children of the Creator, and I recognize you as one of us. That may be all you need. No piece of paper can validate your blood. Just because you can't link it back doesn't mean you're not. If the community recognizes you, you're in, no matter what anyone says, feels, or thinks. You may find a tribe that may not be your own, but it can still say, we recognize you, we see you. Is that so different from us? How do we signify our membership in this UUCD tribe of ours? Is it by signing the book? I don't think so. It's by accepting each other. We see you, we recognize you. Is it important to show our respect and our solidarity with our neighbors, the Paugussett people? And if so, how should we do that? That's what we wanted to take a few minutes today to start a conversation about. So at this point, we'd like you to self-divide into little discussion groups. And we'll go for about 10 minutes talking about, well, we had some discussion topics that we will distribute, talking basically about, well, what do we want to do? How important is this to us to recognize the Paugussett people, our neighbors? And if so, if we want to do something about it, what's that going to be? So let's have groups of at least 5 people each, no more than 8 in a group, so that everybody gets a chance. It's really important everybody gets a chance to speak. Whether you're talkative or you're quiet, we want to hear what you think. So please feel free, speak up, tell us what you think honestly, and then sit back and listen to what everybody else has to say so we get a chance. And I think we're going to need to limit that to no more than 10 minutes of discussion, and then we'll reconvene.
Headlines. Anybody from group number 1? Dan, want to just not? No, okay. What? Tag, you're it. Okay. In group number 1, we spoke a lot about what next steps might be beyond the plaque, that the plaque is not enough in itself. And we were just generating some really wonderful ideas about how to move forward. Anybody else want to speak about what was said in their groups? Group 2? Okay.
That's okay. So we talked about number 1, asking what the Paugussett tribe wants and needs.
Number 2, we talked about a drive or a letter writing or a lobbying effort to try to reverse this law, because we were also talking about, money, you can throw money at the problem, but we thought if you get to the root of the issue, which is the law, if they then get recognition, then that might lead to financial independence. And then the other thing was maybe a small percentage of our weekly intake could go as just an ongoing acknowledgement. Offering our space as, a home away from home, if there are ever any events or meetings that they want to have, our house is their house.
Group number 3. Thanks. Anyone? Group number 3, want to give us a headline, what you talked about? You have to come up because Zoom will not hear you.
I think the primary item that we identified is very similar to yours, is to put together our thoughts and make it known to the state and maybe ultimately to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I was telling, I lived 25 years in South Dakota where they have 6 reservations, and they won't move quickly, I can tell you that. So.
And group number 4.
Prolific brainstorming group. So tell me if I'm honest here. The first was to work with their already set agenda. And it was to create like a campaign to try to get this law reversed. And so that way it would enable for them to get some benefits, federal benefits that they're probably not getting. The second is to do whatever we can to contribute to fundraising for this community center, which they said they wanted to build. We had some discussion around giving the land back, but realized maybe not practical, because since it's like a third of the state. And then we also talked about putting it on the website, acknowledging them on the website. So it's there as people come to search us because everything's online, as well as having a link to their fundraising efforts to their site on our site. So if anybody wanted to donate, they could go right there, obviously asking them with permission. Did I get everything? The main points? Did I miss that?
I just wanted the...
Yeah. See, I told you to come up here in the first place.
I feel that the acknowledgement from the pulpit should continue, because I know, personally speaking, it was very important to me when I first came to the church. I think it's a sign that we're a welcoming congregation, and it impresses people.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And in addition, here, I don't want you to, in addition to, as part of that, also continue to have it ongoingly in the order of service, et cetera, where we have different communication forums. Oh, yeah, sorry. See, I told you they had a lot of ideas. In an annual share the plate, so it's ongoingly.
Okay. And group number 5.
Oh, while you're on your way up, we have a comment from the group, the Zoomers, on the chat. One last idea, we could use the newly forming UU statewide social justice group to speak up for the tribe's rights with the BIA if the tribe wants us to.
Does group 5 want to come up and summarize for us?
Excuse me. I'm happy to report that we did not have to administer any discipline in our group. I don't think we can add too much to what was already said. However, I think there is one important point that was brought up, and it's wonderful to hypothesize all these different kinds of things. But, Journey of 1,000 Miles begins with a single step, and the single step is you have to ask them. You have to get plugged into them and say, what do you need? What would you like? What kind of support? What, if anything, can we do? That's the first and foremost, I think. Thank you.
One thing I just want to add is in my conversation with the clan mother this week, when I was talking to her specifically about the plaque and what they would want to see for the plaque, because I said, we don't want to put anything up, like we want to review it by you, we want input from you, we want this to be a co-creation. And she said two things. One is just the land acknowledgement and a short history, which we're going to be working on. And also, just that whatever we do is ongoing, because if you recall, for those who were here in February, one of the things she said is people do something and then it's like a one-shot thing. So whatever we do needs to be ongoing and present. So it's an ongoing, not just like something token.
There is one other idea that I wanted to mention. Oh, and then we're going to have something here too. The one thing I wanted to mention is one idea that I had heard was that with regard to the community center that they're building in Colchester, it's great to send them a little financial contribution, but maybe we could find out if there's something that we could actually do to help if we went out there, and actually did something. Is there something we can do to help clean up or whatever it is? I think that was an interesting idea.
I just wanted to expand on.
Val, do you want to come, or is that a problem?
I just wanted to expand on the thought that we would do share the plate, you said, on an annual basis. We might consider it as to being one of the things that we would raise funds for through the auction. Every year we've done 2 nonprofits that we've raised funds for.
That's a good idea.
And we might make them one.
Thank you. Uwe, you had, come on up.
I don't know how important that is, so. To get all this going, and I'm not volunteering, I think we need a small leadership group on this. Somebody probably is already knows these people from before. That's very, very important. So just we all agree, and who's going to do it? And 2 is everything we came up with. There's a lot of things we agreed on. I think we should give them our list as well, besides asking what they want, because there may be things on it that they hadn't thought about. So we need constant contact. That's an advertisement of some sort.
Thank you. So, obviously, open lines of communication in both directions. This is what we've thought of. How does this sound, and what do you need from us? I think we're very much in concert with one another in terms of the 5 groups and what we came up with. Okay. Oh, online group. Oh, is there anything else from the online group? Todd? No, that was it. Okay, Cheryl. Meet you halfway. I'm sorry. Oh, that's as far as it goes.
There have been all kinds of ideas about what we can do to and for the Pugwasit tribe. But I think we need to have something about how we grow and our knowledge of the tribe and our relationship with it, how our RE program is involved in it, and how our adult program is involved in it. It's just, we need to do some learning.
Wow, this has been very, very productive. Thank you all for your input. The next video I wanted to take a second to tell you about. A year ago, April of 2023, Walkabout Clearwater Chorus, a group that I've been singing with for more than 30 years, was invited to participate in an event that was a fundraiser for the Friends of Buttonhook Forest in Chappaqua. Buttonhook Forest is a sacred site of I don't know, I think it's 30 acres in Chappaqua, where there are sacred stones that were sacred to the natives who lived there, and developers are swarming to try to build on this sacred land. So ordinary non-Indigenous Chappaqua residents bonded together to raise funds to lobby against the developers coming in. So this video is from that evening when we had a chance to sing with Bethany Yarrow, a Native American song about the power of water. Thank you. Sherry, you can play the video. And I'm kind of off camera, but I was there.
You'll know it when it comes. You're gonna look up you're gonna look up that nigga no no, that nigga no no, now we are here. You're gonna look up you're gonna look up that nigga no no, that nigga no no, now we are here.
Thank you, Sherry. It's now time for us to extinguish the chalice. The postlude is a little different. After we extinguish the chalice, Step by Step by John Farrell is a call and response. So I'm going to sing a line and ask you to sing it back to me. And then we will segue to coffee. So please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Just get out your best Sunday morning voices and sing back to me. Here we go. Step by step, one at a time. You don't have to run. There's plenty of time. If you fall down, rise up and then, step by step, start moving again. Okay, this part has no echo. Life is a circle, earth is a ball. Seed so tiny grows so tall. Earth needs the rain, the earth needs the sun. After the storm, a rainbow will come. So step by step, one at a time. You don't have to run. There's plenty of time. If you fall down, Rise up and then, step by step, start moving again. Step by step, start moving again. Thank you. And that ends our service for today. Lots of really good work was done this morning, and thank you, Todd.